public speaking events, and our annual drama events. From this month on, we have initiated yet another event which is going to be taught by experts in various fields. As I said, we are debuting with Sri Krishnan on Temple-Epicenters of Culture and Heritage. You can look forward to future talks in the fields of medicine, insurance, investment, law, anything that is going to be of use to us residents here, and is open to just everyone across a cross section of ages. Now a brief about Sri Krishnan. Of course, all of you know him to be a South City resident. He is by qualification an electronics and communication engineer who was a scientist with ISRO, went on to work with Robert Bosch for almost 2 decades in the capacity of senior vice president. He headed a management unit developing automotive software. Now in 2021, he left the corporate world, though not entirely, I would say, to pursue his various other passions. He is an expert violinist, tutored by Srimati Lalgudi Rajalakshmi, the sister of Lalgudi Sri Jayaraman, and in music by Srimati Neela Ram Gopal, who was our very own resident here. Now, he has conducted lecture demonstrations in music. He has given lectures in history, literature, and music in various forums. Presently, he also consults and mentors leaders and coaches at startups at IIM Bangalore. I think there are a host of other things to his credit, including being he has his own blog, he's an innovator, and also he has authored a book in Tamil, which is a collection of short stories that was published last year. So on that note, I hand over to Sri Krishnan for his expert talk on this with the PPT presentation. Thank you. 1 minute, I'm sorry. I request Navita to please give him a small token of appreciation. All our programs are not charged for, and our speakers are also doing this on an honorary basis. Thank you, Sri Krishnan ji, for your valuable time and expert talk.
Thank you so much, Chitra ji. It's my pleasure and honor to be addressing the enthusiastic people who have assembled here. Actually, I really thank all of you in such large numbers. It gives me so much energy because today being a Sunday evening, there are so many other things you could have done easily. Like binge watching Netflix, such a beautiful weather, you can also binge eat some nice pakoras in this weather. But you have made a choice of coming over here to listen to some topic. I hope I fulfill your expectations, and thank you first. Going to be talking about a dimension of Sanatana Dharma. But I want to use the word Sanatana Dharma very carefully because it is one of the most misused, abused words in today's context. As you know, Sanatana Dharma is just not about religion and religious practices. It's a way of life. It's a way of life that has evolved over thousands of years continually. It's not just religion, but the way we, dharma, what we call, the righteous way that we live, is what is important, which includes all other things what we are going to talk about. That's why all these things are there in temple, otherwise it should have been somewhere else. We are going to see about the magnificent architecture of our temples, the murtis and their iconography, what does it mean? It's only an overview I'm going to provide. How to appreciate the intricate carvings, what are there in inscriptions, learn about the kings and their history, the linguistics and language development, how it has happened, the social system of those days, how it has happened, music associated with temples, and last but not the least, the culinary traditions of the temple. So these are all a bird's eye overview I will be providing today to see how temple has been an epicenter of our culture all along the history. Let me start with the precautionary or a disclaimer statement. I am not an expert, let me be honest there. I am another enthusiast like many of you. I have spent time being curious, reading about them, going and watching the temples, going and visiting them, talking to many more people, and learnt about that. So that's the way I have learned all those things, but some of you might know more than me. I am more than willing to learn from all of you also. Secondly, when I tell about Indian culture, the Sanatana Dharma, it does not mean that I am saying the other Dharma, other cultures, other religions are anyway inferior. If I may sound somewhere, please pardon me, that's not the intent at all. I think every culture, every country, every religion has got their own righteous things. I am more familiar with our culture and our religion, and that's what I am going to be talking. Many examples that I am going to quote are predominantly from two states, which is Tamil Nadu, where I have grown up, and Karnataka, where I have spent most of my other life beyond my education. There are enough examples from other states as well, but probably some of you might know, but I will be covering these two because my knowledge is limited. One aspect. Another thing, historically what happened, if you look at beyond 13th, 14th century, what happened was, the invasions happened. Hampi, Vijayanagara in Karnataka was the peak of the culture of our Sanatana Dharma. All the arts flourished there. All the forms of temple culture happened there, but all got destroyed. You know what is the state of Hampi. Fortunately, all this got saved by everything migrated towards Tamil Nadu. That was not under the influence so much of the invaders. So most of the magnificent temple architectures and associated traditions have continued in Tamil Nadu today. But again, I am not saying it is Tamil Nadu because all these culture and traditions were propagated from the Vijayanagara Hampi. So it's Karnataka traditions or South Indian traditions that are surviving and flourishing in Tamil Nadu even today. So we will see such magnificent examples. What are there? I will try to cover as many as possible. And the fundamental question will come, why are we taking this topic today? I hope some children are there. I am going to ask some questions before I get into our temples. Any idea who is this from Greek mythology? Go ahead. Zeus. What is he famous for? Or what does he represent? Sorry? God of lightning. Do you know the god of lightning in Indian culture? Indra. Very good. This is what I want everyone to know. We have equally very good legends and Purana, what we are talking about, which are depicted in temples. Excellent. What's your name? Arav. Thank you so much. Do you know what is this representing? What is this representing? Vitruvian man. What does it represent? What does it say? Golden ratio. What else? The perfect man, whatever way they are representing. Do you know similar concept in India? Which is depicted in our sculptures, everything? That's a Nataraja. It's also very, very, very perfectly constructed with ratios and much complex. We'll see the tattva or the philosophy of Nataraja also later. Do you know what is this building? Sistine Chapel. What is it famous for? Michelangelo's. Roughly which century this was done? Yeah, which century? 15th, 16th century, somewhere around. Do you know where are these? This our own paintings done in the similar period. In Srirangam temple. We go to the temple, I'll come to that. We see there is a long queue, we buy a 200 rupee or 500 rupee ticket and go and have the darshan of the Moolamurti and come back. There are 15th century paintings. This is in the Dayar Sanadi. The entire roof is painted with things. 15th century paintings. You can spend time on such things. We know more about other tourist places which are popularized, of course. We need to talk about this and learn about this. What are these? Where are they? Paris, Notre Dame and the Louvre Museum, right? And people spend hours and hours. We have spent. But I can tell you this one, which temple is this? Belur. This is Belur. Belur temple also we can spend equal amount of time. It's a living museum. I can tell you about our culture. So this is the whole idea. What do we learn about our temples? Not just looking at them as a place of worship. That is already there. All of you know. So I am not going to talk about place of worship. But what is there in a temple as a living museum of our culture, or that's what I mean by epicenter of our culture. So far with me? Let's talk about Sanatana Dharma in a little more. We call this the Chaturvita Purushartha. Goals of life. Purushartha means the objectives of a man in the sense mankind or humans, we can generalize. These are Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. I think all of you are aware, right? So Dharma is the righteous path, the way to live. Interesting is Artha, it's about wealth and economic values, financial things, all that. Kama is just not about love and other things. Kama is also pleasure, deals with the psychology of humans. Wherever we show desire on anything, that's Kama. Of course, Moksha is the liberation from all these things. Interestingly, the Sanatana does not say that whole life we should be only looking at liberation. It's asking us to enjoy all the things. If you take an example like a Janaka Maharishi from Ramayana, he was a rishi and a king, both together. And he had debates with Yajnavalkya, one of the rishis of Vedic period. So this is completely in line with what we are talking, that somebody can be a king and at the same time be interested in the philosophy and religion and debating all those things. That's what is our culture saying. Of course, Dharma is the righteousness, the way of life that is topmost, but there are very other things depending on our life stage what we are. I think all of you are aware also, the ashramas, the 4 stages of life as described in our scriptures. Starts with brahmacharya, where we are learning under a guru. That's the phase of life. Second, we get into grahastha after marriage, where actually artha is very important. You have to earn money to live, lead a life, raise children. That's also said. You have to do that. And then comes vanaprastha. Slowly you renounce, or it's equivalent of retirement. You leave the job kind of things and start focusing on some other things. And then finally comes sannyasa, where you renounce everything. So it's not that from the beginning of life, Sanatana Dharma is asking you to leave everything in life and focus on something. That's not the purpose. You can be doing all the things. As you mature, as you age, your own thoughts will change. That's what is exactly Sanatana Dharma about. This context we have to see why we are telling temple becomes the epicenter of all the things what we talked about. You will find in a temple all the life aspects being depicted, including Khajuraho. When you know what is it famous for. Why is it coming in a temple? Because in our culture, we did not see those things as something to be hidden about and not talked about or not to be shown. Those are Victorian values we imbibed from our colonial masters. Otherwise, in India, every temple had everything. That was the learning place. That was the place of arts. That was the place, we will see later, place where hospitals were there. That was the place where other than the king's court, the court of the city or town or village was held. We will see so many examples. Temple was everything. If somebody wants to publish a book and talk about it, that's a place. Kamaramayana was, Arangetram, what we call, was done in Srirangam temple. That is a place where somebody comes with a new book, they go and present it first time. Or a drama is written, first time it is staged in a temple. So there were no separate stages or things. Everything was done in the temple. So temple was the epicenter. That's where we are starting with. Also we see, always when we talk about our culture and things, we always somehow develop a superiority complex somewhere, saying we are the oldest culture, and somewhere we say we have the greatest thing. That's my opinion, very limited view of the world. There have been cultures which are earlier, if you talk of world. This is from Mesopotamian. Ziggurat is a form of the temple what they had. 2000 to 3000 BC, it was such magnificent structures. And you know about pyramids. Only difference, what we should be proud about, I will come in the next. Those things are not surviving today. Most of them got destroyed. Mesopotamia, nothing is remaining practically. Or if you take Egypt, pyramids are there, but what happened to the religion? What happened to the language? What happened to that culture is completely changed over years. There are very few cultures in the world where there is a continuity. So if you take this from India, the Mohenjo-daro or the Harappan civilization, which is 3000, 2000 BC and all that, we have the seal of Pashupati, which is a predecessor or it is indicating the yoga practice. And we call Shiva as the Adi Yogi. Probably that was a prototype of the Shiva, the way it was depicted. And we are practicing yoga with the same Chinmudra, same Padmasana even today. We should be proud more about the continuity that it has survived because we were adapting. We were never rigid. If you look at our culture, we have been always adapting anything that comes. New concepts in philosophy, new concepts in the way we dress, what we eat. Everything has been continuously changing. That is what we should be proud about. Why our country will have a bright future and further also going is because we are flexible. We are a lot more open, willing to learn and change. So that is where I start with the worldview of the things. And as I told, I am going to continue with today all the aspects of temple architecture, the sculptures, intricate ones, inscriptions, what do they tell, some festivals, the music, paintings, literature associated, as well as I told, the culinary traditions of the temples. That's what we are going to. Let's get into the temple. As I told, we just go to the 500 rupee ticket and go to the Mulastana and see the Murti and come back. That's not the way. How do we formally see? First thing is to study the Sthala Purana of any temple that we are going. Sthala Purana means it's a local Purana. You should have an overview of that. You know, there are beautiful stories. History comes later. Before that are the legends or stories of any temple. It's very important we understand those stories and we will see how those stories have values. I think those who have read about Harari keep saying, no, human society evolved only through stories. It is true of our culture also. There have been so many stories that help us to shape our values, shape our culture. So let me start with a famous temple. This is Srirangam. This is the largest temple in India. About 216 acres temple size. So let me start with that temple. Anyone knows a very two-line overview of the Sthala Puranam of Srirangam? Where did the Ranganatha come from? Anybody? From Ayodhya. That was the Murti worshipped by Rama, Ranganatha. And Vibhishana, during the Pattabhisheka, he asked for that Murti and he starts bringing it down. And then how it ended up in Srirangam? Ganesha. See, the story is like this. Wherever this Ranganatha is there, that place will be indestructible. That will be a powerful place. Vibhishana asked for that and he is taking down. And the Devas were worried that if he takes this to the place of Rakshasas and that place becomes indestructible, then it will be a problem. So they request Ganesha. Ganesha comes as a small boy and then he makes Vibhishana hand over to him and he keeps it down, and that's where Ranganatha is standing there today. A similar story is there in, also you will hear in Karnataka also, which Gokarna. These are all stories that were also, there is a Purana and there is a background to that, how it has come. But if you look at this story, what values is it teaching to us? What is the essential philosophy that is coming out in this story? The essential Vaishnava philosophy, what is coming here? Sharanagati. Because who was Vibhishana? He was Rama's arch rival's brother. And he goes and surrenders to Rama and he gets his Rama gives his one of the best things possible. The murti that their family tradition that they have been doing worshipping, they hand it over to Vibhishana. So that is one thing. Surrendering to God, Rama, is one way that he will take care of everything. And then comes the other, what other people do, devas do, that they try to stop it. These are all part of life, it will happen. And still Ranganatha says, I will protect you by facing south. All other temples you will find they are facing east or west, the name Murti. Only Ranganatha is facing south. There are only two Rajas who face south, they say. One is Rangaraja, another is Nataraja. Both face south. Nataraja will come later. He is protecting or saving Sri Lanka or the Vibhishana's place. So the Saranagati Tattva, that is surrendering, is one important philosophy what we hear. So our stories will have one direct morals and values that are coming out of this Sthala Purana, what we should understand. Let me go to another dimension of Sthala Puranas. Also will have a lot more philosophical things. What is this painting depicting? Any idea which temple, what story is this? Tiruvannamalai. What is the story? You don't know. Anyone else? Yeah. Shiva comes as the fire and Brahma and Vishnu try to find the head and bottom feet of that and they could not find. One goes up and one goes down and could not find. This is basically the philosophy that tells that the Lord is infinite. You cannot find Adi or Antam of this Lord. That is what is the philosophy. One is the story. Another is the philosophy. What it is telling is that the Lord is such magnanimous. He is infinite. We will also see where we say that Lord doesn't exist. It is zero. Lord is both zero and both infinite. We will see that later. So there are two layers and this is why in every temple you go, Shiva temple, you will find that Lingodbhava in the back of the Shiva Sannidhi. If you go around circumambulating exactly behind the main Sannidhi, according to Agama Sastras, this is an image that is there to remind you that the Lord is infinite. Let us remember. So everything is for a symbol and there is a reason and to tell you what is what. So we saw the Sthala Purana, how to understand. So that's important when we are visiting any great temples. Let us understand what is the Sthala Purana saying. Other than that, there will be a lot more of local legends, which has also happened with certain historical figures. I want to show one example from Karnataka. Who is this? What is the legend? Udupi. Kanakadasa. What happened with him? Yeah, Kanakadasa was not inside allowed the temple to see the Lord and Lord turned to him. What was the song he sang at that time? Bhagilana Tagdu Sevena Kodu Hariye. He sang that and the Lord turned. And even now we cannot see the Lord straight. Only through this nine whole windows we can see the Lord. See, this is a local legend and it is historically proven that Kanakadasa was there and he has sung this song. So for every temple, I am taking different temples, not the same one, so that we get legends of various varieties. Every temple will have a Sthala Purana. They will also have certain legends associated with historical figures who are there. Now I move to how to come to history. It's also important, legends and Puranas are fine. How to formally come to history to understand a temple. Okay. In this case I am going to take Tirupati temple. I think first I started about Srirangam, which is the largest temple, and Tirumala is the largest revenue earning temple in India. So let me start with that. You will be surprised to see Silapariharam, the Tamil epic, somewhere dated between 2nd and 4th century. There are so many lines written about Tirupati, the description. You will be surprised because this was written by a Jain monk. And since I know it, I am going to read it out and explain to you because you will be surprised how much he has described in whatever 2nd to 4th century time. How was Tirupati? Being near Arivi, Vengadam Mennu, Omguyar Malaya Kuchi Nimisai, Virikadir Nayarum Tingalum Vedangi, Irumarungongi Idainilai Tanatu, Minnu Kodi Uduthu, Vilangu Virpodu, Nanira Meham Nindradu Pola, Pahayanan Kalium, Pal Ven Changamum, Tahepere Tamarai Kayi Nevi, Nalankiler Aram Marbil Pondu, Palambu Vadayir, Palandu Tondriye, Shengan Nadion Indra Vandamam. This one tells that how the Vishnu is standing like a cloud, Megam, like that. and with Shankha and Chakra. And what he is telling is, Minnu Kodi Uduthu, he is wearing a Pitambara. And with so many jewels, Nalankilar Aram Marbil Pundu. So you see the description, it is as good as what we see in Tirupati today. This was written 1800 years back practically. So we know that this temple existed at this time and it was famous enough because Sirupathiyaram talks of only 3 Vishnu temples at the time. One is Tirumala, second is Srirangam, and third is Padmanabha Swami. So we know these were the 3 famous temples in 2nd century or 3rd century time frame. That's how we analyze history. What is there? Because this is a literary evidence. What tells you? Then we come to inscriptions which are telling history. You know, in Tirumala, if you see, again, we get a hardly a 10-second darshan. But on the right side, when we are seeing, there will be Bhoga Srinivasa Murti, which is made of silver. And this is different from the Malayappa Swami, which is taken for Utsava and all. This is again inside the Garbhagriha only. It's in silver. And this was donated in 614 AD by Pallava Queen, Shyamalamba or Samavai. And she has donated 23 acres of land to daily do the Naivedyam of 4 Nadi Tiruvamudu. And a lamp that will be burnt all the time in the temple. And also for the golden ornaments, it lists how many diamonds were there, how many other jewels were there in that. It is all written in Tirumala inscription. 47 kinds of gold ornaments she has given. And the annual festival just now that happened, Brahmotsavam, is also mentioned, and for that she has donated all these things. So this is another proof, just to understand the history, how all these things happen, how it goes on. I'll continue with Tirumala as a history because we all of us know this temple, but a lot of such interesting historical facts we will come across. You know Rajendra Chola, right? The son of Rajaraja Chola, the Ponniyin Selvan movie, whatever you have seen, you know. And he was ruling the southern side as well as had influence, not that he was directly ruling. He had trade agreements with up to Java, Sumatra, and he was doing trade with China also using trade routes. He had a naval maritime ship and all that was happening, a great king. But he also did something in Tirumala. In 1019, there is an inscription. Any guess what that could be? It's related to a contemporary problem that's happening in Tirumala. That time Laddu was not there, but I'll come to that. When did Laddu come? Actually, he had donated certain things, a village and money to be done for having Kalpura Harati and temple lamps and taking care of the Madapalli. And he was reported that those people were not doing those duties properly. So he took back the land and took back the money given and punished those people, and he appointed a person to go around daily check that all these things are happening properly as per Agama Sastra. So this happened 1000 years back. So what is happening now is nothing new. But it's very interesting history, how things have happened, and this is all written there, how it has happened. Now we come to one of the most famous kings of well known from Vijayanagara, Krishnadeva. He visited Tirumala temple 7 times. It was his favorite deity. Of course, he visited Srirangam also, but Tirumala 7 times. Each time he donated so much. And I think 1500s, he donated so much gold, 30,000 Varaha to gold plate the Anandanilaya Vimana. Anandanilaya Vimana was gold plated much before in 12th century by Maravarman Sundara Pandya, but again it had to be redone. So it was done during Krishnadeva time. And this the picture you see here, have you seen this? That's another thing to notice. As you are going in the line, you will see on the left side Krishnadeva with his 2 wives. This image is there in Tirumala. You should notice all these things and understand. That's a history, how it has happened. And then comes, that was 15th century, you know, the invasions happened and the kingdom was lost. And British took over the temple administration. And even sometime back we were telling the temple revenue was being used for some other things by some government. Nothing new. In 1700s, the British government took all the money from Tirumala temple and they were calling it as general revenue and spending as they liked. And then they decided, okay, the temples have to be handed over to the rightful owners. And as usual, among ourselves, there are problems. There are 2 sects of Vaishnavas who are fighting to get the ownership of Tirumala temple. So the British decided, I am not going to give to these South Indians who are fighting among themselves. They handed over the temple to Mahants of North India. This is Hathiramji Mutt, and this temple was handed over in somewhere in 1800s. And then till 1933, the temple was under the ownership of this Mahant. And there is a mutt you can see, and the picture there on the left side you see, because this Mahant was also a Mahan who actually is supposed to have played dice with Lord. So that sculpture is there. You can see as you are going to temple on the left side, on the top it will be there, and this mutt is even now today there, who are actually running this temple. And that is the time the Laddu was introduced, if you know. The Mahans from north, because for them the Laddu is a prasadam, so somewhere in 1800s middle the Laddu was introduced in Tirupati. So that is how we understand the history and traditions, what happened. So start with understanding the Sthala Purana. First is we talk about our Sanatana Dharma, how to understand the temple. Then we went to Sthala Purana, which are telling the stories. Then the philosophies. And then we start with history, understand from centuries back to till now what has happened. And then we get a complete picture how a temple is there today. Are you with me so far? Yes. Interesting?
Yes.
Okay. Now I move to the second section. Now we'll get into a little bit of temple architecture, what it means. All these are temples, right? Across India. Right? The top one left corner looks like what? You need not name, but what? Not Pragadeshwara. Where do you see such temples? On the left top corner, what do you see? Yeah, it is typically north. And the rightmost corner down is Kerala temple. All are temples. You see, so much architecture are there. Again, I am going to introduce to temple architecture. What does it mean? Because there have been Shastras, Agama Shastras written. If you take Vaishnava temple, Vaikasana Agama is there. There are so many Agamas there, even Shiva Agamas are there. Based on which the temples are constructed. It is not some random construction that happens. So if you get into the Agama Shastras, there are, and based on history, we have classified into 3 types of architectures. The North Indian ones are called Nagara. And the bottommost one is, okay, let me come to the middle one is called Dravida, where the South Indian temples are constructed. So Nagara is the North Indian, Dravida is the South Indian, and the bottommost one is a mix of two. It's a hybrid between North and South. That you find very interestingly in Karnataka. In Haigole, Pattabakal, all those temples are actually Vesara type, because this was the interface between the North and South. So both styles were there. So this is the 3 styles. Now you know, when you see a temple, what style it means. So not only styles, because if we are talking of style, people could have constructed very small temples and gone with that. Now we are going to take the Brihadeeswara temple, which was constructed 1000 years back practically. Why should they build such big temples? Because that is where they showed their architecture prowess. Of course, the kings wanted to show that they are building the biggest temple. But they built the temple, not a palace, this big. And none of the palaces is surviving. You don't know where is Raja Chola's palace today. It doesn't exist. Whereas this temple is existing today, after 1000 years. Right? This is an engineering marvel. Because the height of the Vimana is 216 feet height. The top stone is 80 tons weighing. And if you see the cross section on the right side, to withstand that weight, how they have created. It's a cross section, so it's a circular pattern in between there. So the weight is distributed into 4 columns, not just 2. Imagine that. Last year we had an opportunity, because someone knew that through archaeological, those places they don't allow people, but we both had a pleasure of visiting the temple and going around in the inner circumambulatory. You can see magnificent. Those are some 12-13 feet walls. The middle one, what you see here, those are 12-13 feet walls, and these are 30-40 feet walls. These are well calculated to withstand that kind of a load, because the top stone, as I told, is 80 tons weighing. That's an engineering marvel, and I don't think they would have done it by any random thought process without calculating the things and how to do that. Again, when we come to that, the Agama Shastras describe various parts. It's almost scientific, like you mark anything with parts. I'm not going to read all, just to give you an example. When you see Vimana like this, there are so many parts. This is called Stupi, this is Shikara, Kudu, Griva is like a neck, Tala, Shala, Kuta, Ahara, Vyala Hari is this row, Prastara is this. Like this it goes, Upapita, Sopana, Marga is the steps. These are all defined and dimensions for each are defined. It's not that some random thing is constructed. All these are defined. Gives you, it's not that so solid that every temple will look alike. There are enough freedom given for you to innovate within that. And people have done it. So this is what I call engineering marvel. Not only engineering, we are going to see certain astronomical things. Again, shows that how good we were in understanding astronomy. Any guess what is this temple? Where is it? Please, somebody should answer. Any one clue? This is in Bangalore, not in Tiruvannamalai, not in Sriyanga. This is Gavi Gangadhareshwara temple in Gavipuram near Basamgudi. Okay, that's why we have to see how the temples in Bangalore. I will tell you there are 1,000-year-old temples, so many in Bangalore. And what is the astronomical marvel in this temple? On Shankranti day, the sunlight will fall on the Shiva. In the evening around 5 to 6, somewhere around 3 minutes, the sunlight will exactly fall. Again, how much calculation they should have done to do that? Just imagine. Similar astronomical marvel, one more temple. Which is this temple? Sringeri. What is the name of this temple? Vidya Shankara temple. Right? This was constructed by Vidyaranya in memory of his guru, who was Vidya Shankara in the year 1357. Okay. What is the astronomical marvel in this temple? Exactly. So we saw in Shankranti day in Gavipuram that the sunlight falls. In this temple, every month sunlight will fall on one of the pillars. It's called Rashi pillars. 12 Rashis are there, 12 pillars are there. And the calculations are there on the floor with the lines marked. It's not again something imagined. You can see that every month the sunlight will. Imagine how much calculation, and it is valid even after construction of 700 years, you can see such things going on. That is a marvel, how we have done things in temples. And all this, if you are only bothered about religion and worshipping, we will not be doing all these things. As I told, temple is beyond just worship. That was the epicenter, that's what I am trying to again pass on the information. How did this temple evolve? It's not that what we see as big temples with Gopuram and Vimanam didn't come from day one. Little bit about evolution. The top one left, what is that? Which place? Vatapi. That was called Badami in the time of Chalukya kings, 6th century, 5th century. You see cave temples. Initially it was all carving out of caves. Same thing you see in the right side, that is from Trichy or Mamandur from Pallava king, similar period. All this happened. But the proud thing is from Karnataka is the South Indian temple architecture evolved initially from Aihole, Pattalakal and Chalukyas, and then spread to rest of the country. And below two ones are actually Pallava style cave temples. It's not just the front, but inside also they did magnificent carvings. This is how the temple started first. All the oldest temples will be in this form, carved on a cave, somewhere around 4th, 5th, 6th centuries. Then comes, these are from Mahabalipuram, monolithic rocks which were there. They carved complete temples out of that. This was 6th, 7th centuries. 100 years, 200 years later, the previous version, carving on a mountain, but they started carving on monoliths. Then the next evolution, this is Kailasnatha temple, one of the UNESCO memorial. Most people don't go because this is not a temple under major worship, this is under archaeological survey. But if you have not gone there to Kanchipuram, go and visit this temple. It's one of the architectural marvels. This was probably the inspiration for the Brahmeswara temple, a smaller scale version of that. But the sculptures are magnificent. This is another example where we moved from monoliths into taking many stones and building a temple together with that. And with sculptures. Then came the left side, what you see, this is Mahabalipuram again, but the Gopuram which was done like this in Mahabalipuram, by 14th, 12th century onwards, it started going up, evolving like this, making it colorful, making it tall, 100 feet, 200 feet Gopurams. This was the evolution, how the temples evolved, from rock-cut temples, what we saw from simple cut in the rock, to what we are seeing as temples by 14th, 15th century. This is the stage where we have evolved. This is Gopuram. And if you look at the Vimanam, the difference is Gopuram is in the front side when you enter temples, all the four sides are. Vimanam is the one about the Moola Murti, because we mixedly use Vimanam and Gopuram. Actually, the right terminology is Gopuram is outside, Vimanam is the above the Moola Murti in the middle. There are so many types of Vimanas, it's not one type. You see the standard type which we have seen earlier. For example, here what I am showing, the top left corner is called Gajaprishta Vimana. That's like a back of an elephant, that shape. The middle one is from Srirangam, it's called Pranavakara Vimana. It's like a plus sign, it will be there if you look from top. And the bottom one is from Madurai Kudalaraja temple, it is called Ashtanga Vimana. There is one in Tirukosti here also, 8 levels are there. And you will see in this temple, this type of Ashtanga Vimanas, Vishnu in 3 poses. One as sitting, one as reclining, one as standing. All the 3 will come within the Vimana above. Other than the Moolamurti, it will come. So there are so many types. There are so many other types. I am not describing everything here. Goprishta is there. There are so many types of Vimanas. Again, all described in Agama Sastras. Let's move into the temple. I'll move into different types of pillars. How it is all again. You see the left side in the rock cut temples, the pillars were the simple, most functional, just to allow a hole or entry to go and just holding the structure mechanically. You see how it started developing in Pallava period, and you see later this is from Srirangam, done in 14th, 15th century during the Nayara period. How much again the evolution happened, because we are artistic, we cannot be happy with one type of pillar. But when you go to a temple, you see a pillar, you can tell what age this was typically constructed, whether it is 4th, 5th century, whether it was 10th, 11th century, or it is 14th, 15th century. The most evolved ones happen, as I told, in the Vijayanagara period and post-Vijayanagara period, the rightmost one. There was practically another type of architecture that was flourishing in Karnataka called the Hoysala architecture, which you see in Vellore Helmet. That is totally different. And you see the pillars, how it evolved. From the simple, you see how shiny, lathe made. They made using kind of a lathe mechanism. These stones were carved using that. Otherwise, you can't get such a perfect cylindrical shape. It became a lot more complex, and the final versions were like this. How they became. These are all evolutions. And if temple is only place of worship, why do we do all these things? That's what again comes back to. That was the place of, that was the museum, that was the art place also for everything. Take the simple windows. If you go to any temple, watch the windows. They are not just functional to give light and air. They would have carved so many, starting with basic geometrical patterns of squares and circles and things like that. Carving. Then this is like Naga based on snakes, how they are entertaining. And then they started making even a lot more complex sculptures on windows. You can spend a time on, if you go to Vellore only on windows, you can spend a day to understand what is it. Then what we call the Tala, the various layers in the below the temple you see, there are so many beautiful small miniature sculptures. Again, they require a lot more analysis. There will be layers. I have taken just one from, I think this is from Hampi. Elephants, lions, and then horses, and you will see each one is different. They will not carve like a row of identical mechanical figures. They will make small variations and then show that their creativity. Multiple layers will be there. And these carvings are not only artistic, because sometimes we say Indians have never recorded history, that's why we are suffering. It is not fully true, partly true, not fully true. This sculpture is from Vellore. And the king sitting there is Vishnuvardhana. On his left side you see King Shantala, who was the Nanzeus as well as the queen. And this is a very historic, important moment that is shown here in the history of Karnataka. Any guess what is this? There is a person sitting here on the left here. This is Vishnuvardhana and Shantala, and this is a queen sitting here. Saint sitting there. Ramanujacharya. He converted the king from Jains to Vaishnava. That was a turning point in the history of Karnataka. The whole culture of what we are seeing as the Sanatana Dharma in Karnataka, he was a turning point. Ramanuja came from Chodadesa, from Srirangam to Karnataka, you know, Melkote, and where he stayed in Tondanur for 12 years. And he converted this king Vishnuvardhana into Vaishnavism. And this is captured in this sculpture. We know that it is not a story, but it is there. So, this is about the temple outside architecture, sculptures. Now I will move into little more on the murtis, how much beautiful things are there. So far with me, speed is okay? You see three types of Ganesha here, right? Each one is looking different. All are Ganesha. Again shows even in doing the murtis, how much different styles evolve, how much different creativity they have shown. This is Chola period from Pullamangai in Tamil Nadu, one of the beautiful, again it's a marvelous temple. This is of course from Hoysala architecture, Belur Halibate style, and this is from Vijayanagara period, from Hampi. How different they are looking at. It's the same Ganesha. So when you look at a Murti, again what I am telling is you can try to guess the era, try to understand which era, what style it is. All are Ganesha, but each is different. How do we do that? Also analyzing a Murti, trying to understand there are so many intricacies. Again I will try to give an overview here. This is what is the Hindu iconography. When you see a Murti, first what is the Murti we should try to identify. So this is Vishnu sitting on Garuda. This is from Belur Halibate. Start from top. The Mukuta or Makuta is the headgear. I will show examples later. Then what weapons, Ayuda they are carrying. What is the hand showing? It is Hasta Mudra. Sharira Mudra, how is the body there? Pada Mudra, how are the legs? What is the Vahana or the vehicle? And Abhushana is the jewellery or ornamentation, what is happening. All these are different in different gods, and it is different in different styles. But again, according to Agama Sastra. Let me start with few examples. The Makuta or Mukuta as it is called. There are so many types. This is called Karanta Makuta, which is typically you see in Ganesha. These longer ones are called Kirita Makuta, which is typically used for the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara and higher gods. The next layer of gods will have the smaller one, which is Karanta Makuta. That is how it is defined. Even in this Arikere Ganesha temple, you will see the Makuta will be like this smaller one, not the longer one. And Shiva being separate, he doesn't wear Makuta. What is he having actually? Jata Makuta. You see how is Shiva depicted? The Jata completely open as in Nataraja, or Jata also can be folded like a Kirita, but it is not a Kirita. That is how it is in Shiva. And backside, if you look at this, these are all the Chola bronzes done in 10th century. It will be so beautifully depicted. The Jata is like this in front and back is like this. And this is another example of another Chola bronze. If I am right, this is more in Metropolitan Museum in New York than in India. There are replica of this available. You look at how the Jata is bound. And this is Nandi supposed to be here. He is keeping one hand, and look at the body postures. How gracious, how nice, and how is the headgear of Jata Makuta for Shiva, how it is looking. So this is about the headgear. I am again rushing through, just giving some examples. You can spend entire 2 hours on only the headgear and ornamentation on head, how it is done in our sculptures. Coming to Hasta Mudra or hand gestures, people familiar with dance will know, or yoga also, you know, Yoga Mudra. All these are coming from these Shastras. I'll quote some examples. This is Vishnu typically. What is this called? Abhaya. Basically, don't worry, I am there to save you. That is the one. And what is this? Vara Mudra. He is showing his feet. That goes back to the same Sharanagati. I will take care of you. Look at my feet. Fall at my feet. And this is Dakshinamurti with what mudra is that? Chin Mudra. Again, that is related to knowledge and pursuit of knowledge. Chin Mudra. Not only the gods, interesting ones, the Dwarapalaka also will have a mudra. This is called Suchi Mudra, that is showing something. You will see them showing one finger above. That's what we used to show. Basically, they are telling there is the Lord above there. Go inside and go with the devotion. That's what they are telling with this mudra. This is from Tanjavur Brihadishwara temple. You look at this. I have expanded this here. If you go there, you can see it much more. There is something here. You will be amazed to see what, again, there is the creativity of the sculptor whoever has done. There is a snake hanging here, and in the mouth of the snake there is an elephant. This is how they are showing a scale of what is it. You are able to follow me? They are telling this Dwarapalaka is so big that below him there is a snake, And the snake mouth, there is an elephant. He is just telling the scale just to tell how big is his Dwarapala. There are many such interesting sculptures you will find. Moving to principles of symmetry is fully applied. It's not only in Vesuvian man, but here also. There are principles of symmetry described in our Agama Sastras. That's why our sculptures are looking so beautiful. This is called Abhanga, Samabhanga, and Atibhanga and Tribhanga. These are all. Tribhanga is typically like Krishna also is Tribhanga while playing flute. People familiar with dance will know. These are all poses. That is why finally all these are not some again something random. These are all based on those principles of body symmetry, how it is constructed. That's why they look so beautiful. And it's evolved over centuries. As I told, the Nataraja is the ultimate example of our own symmetry. And the next I am going to talk about the Nataraja Tattva, philosophy. If you go to Chidambaram temple, other than the architecture, there are so many philosophical meanings when you say a murti, other than this. This is how it will look. On the side is Nataraja, and there is an empty room there on the left side. This is called Akasha Tattva. It's called, as you know, the Sanatana Dharma says there are Pancha Bhuta Tattva, the 5 elements. One of this is space or Akasha. And this temple is Akasha Tattva. And what is Akasha space? It is emptiness. Actually, they will do the puja here, and also at specific times they will do puja this side, which there will be a screen. If you remove this, you will see only this bilva in golden color. But inside that is an empty room. And people familiar with the Chidambaram temple, you know it is called Chidambara Ragasyam. There is no secret. It's not any Ragasyam. What we are telling is God is formless. Even though one side you say God is having such a form, other side you say that the God is formless. And what I told, infinite form we saw with Tiruvannamalai Lingodbhava. Here it is, you can also go to the level like our Sankhya Yoga, you can say God doesn't exist. It's only in our imagination in the human form we are seeing. Otherwise, it is zero also. That's the level of philosophical things, how it comes. Again, going back to the sculpture of Nataraja, if we see, each of his hand, what he is carrying, there is a huge symbolic meaning. The Damaru on his left hand, this right hand, that symbolizes creation, the sound, movement that created the world. And the fire on this hand symbolizes destruction. So it talks about the creation and destruction as a cycle that keeps happening. Because this circle indicates that everything is cyclic. And a small Rakshasa you see in the below is called Apasmara. He is a symbol of Ajnana or ignorance. So once you put him under the feet, you start getting the Jnana. There are so many such symbolic meanings there. But the beauty is, Nataraja is actually finally the movement or the cosmic dance, what we call. That's why in Shiva temples, again a temple represents a body. So Shiva will be on the left side in the heart place of a temple. That's where the oscillation is going on. That is where the vibration is going on. So that is the location of Nataraja in a Shiva temple. And it signifies the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. And that is what inspired at CERN Geneva in the particle accelerator. They have kept the Nataraja image with the note and then explanation that it is symbol of the cosmic dance of construction and destruction and the particles. So that is portion now I completed is about the architecture, about the murtis, the gestures, the abharanas, what they are wearing, everything. If you start getting into each one, I only covered a very, very bird's eye view. You can read about them and go to a temple and start watching. You can spend hours and hours. So far, okay? I'll move on to the next topic of next art form, which is paintings. Temples were the art galleries. There were no other separate art galleries in the country. This is from Tanjavur Brihadeshwara temple, Chola murals made in 11th century. And again, not accessible to public. These images I took from public domain, and Archaeological Survey has published a beautiful book. This is taken from that. 11th century paintings. If somebody wants to know how did Rajaraja Chola, the Ponniyin Selvan, look, that is how. And this was his guru called Kadura, who was his guru and who instructed him to construct this temple. These two people are drawn, so we know how he looked. It's not some imaginary figure. And this is Chidambaram Nataraja temple with a golden roof, and he with his queens went and worshipped there. These are all historical moments there and recorded as painting. This is from Tiruvarur Ramaswamy temple from 17th century, depicting Deepavali, how it was celebrated. This is again the Vijayanagara Nayak period paintings. It's in the Devashiriya Mandapam in Tiruvarur. You can see whatever you do, flower pot, everything what you are doing today, and this was 17th century practice, how Deepavali was celebrated. So it's not only the religious themes, these were also social themes. Because things were integrated. They were recording everything there. And look at this beautiful painting. Any guess what is this depicting? The picture here? Varaha, but slightly different from Mahabharata. Varaha is right, but this is the Arjuna, Pasupata, and then boar. And any guess where is this beautiful painting available? This is again from 15th, 16th century. It's not far away, 100 kilometers from Bangalore. Lepakshi. If you go to Lepakshi temple, you can see hundreds of such paintings on the roof, on the side walls, still preserved there. There is another example of Lepakshi painting showing Shiva and Parvati, and there is a Nandi, Brahma, everybody. Look at the depictions also. And this is what the borders led to the Lepakshi design in saris also. You can see hundreds of designs which inspired later people to make the saris. These are all from Srirangam temple. Again, when you go next time, please see. This I told is the Tayar Sannidhi above. These are all showing the Alvars and their stories related, and this is again in the Narasimha Sannidhi. These are all again Nayak period, Vijayanagara post period, 15th, 16th century paintings are there, beautiful paintings. As I told, again temples were the art galleries where everything was there. So, when you go to a temple, it's important to see the sculptures as well as paintings, what was happening. This is another section. So far with me? Let me take some water. Now we move to the inscriptions of temples. Again, we say that there is no history written, which is not fully true, partly true. But our documentation goes back to even 10th century or 5th century, 6th century inscriptions are available. Every temple you go, magnificent temples, there will be so many inscriptions written down. And what do they cover? Covers everything about the religious practices. As I told already, some examples from Tirumala. Kings, the grants, the donations that they gave, the history, genealogy of the kings' victories, recipes, that itself can be a separate lecture. Each temple has got a specific prasada, and the kings have donated for maintaining that, and there is a practically recipe, not how to cook, but what are the ingredients and what quantities to put is written there in the inscriptions. Poems will be there on the Lord. Music related we will see, administration, law, order, taxation, social, everything comes. I will give again some examples. Any guess what is this temple? Beautiful temple. Begur temple, hardly 2-3 kilometers from here. This is Chola style, 10th century. Rajendra Chola did this temple in Begur here. And what is the significance of this temple? Recently, first time the name Bengaluru appears in an inscription in this temple. Beautiful answer, sir. Otherwise, the story so far was that Kempagoda formed in whatever 14th, 15th century. That is Bende Kaluru. That may not be true, is a recent thing what we are finding. This is the inscription, and this is how it is written as Bengaluru for the first time. And this is from this temple. So Bengaluru name existed in 11th century. Even earlier than that, there was another inscription found in the Vishnu temple in BTM layout, which is a Tamil inscription because it was in Chola period, calling the city as Bengaluru. So Bengaluru and Bengaluru are the two names what are used, looks like. Again, when I talk, I will be talking about many times inscription. Another important thing to understand is Tamil inscriptions will come a lot. Statistically, that is what has happened. In the South India, there are about 100,000 inscriptions that have been documented by archaeological survey. Out of it, 60,000 are in Tamil. Remaining 40,000 are in Kannada and Telugu. So, that is the statistics. This temple is actually near Shikaripur, Talagunda. One of the earliest Kannada scriptures. There are many discussions going on, many people published there is 3rd century, 4th century, 5th century, but whatever I could see, this is one of the earliest written in Purvada Hale Kannada language, 370. So you know, if somebody says what is the origin, where is it, what language, what script was used. You have a beautiful example. And these were all in temples, nowhere else. There was no other record. So you know what was the language, what was the script used. This is another important evidence for constructing the Chola history, because this was the basis for entire Tamil Nadu history practically. These are called Leiden plates. Leiden is in Netherlands. These were actually got from Thiruvalangada Cheppedigal in Tamil it is called. 32 copper plates. Entire Chola genealogy is written in that. But again, colonial rule, they took it and it is in a university in Leiden in Netherlands. But you read this, this is where we know about the Chola lineage. Parandava Chola, everybody. Completely written their lineage, who are the children, what did they do, when to when they ruled. This was the record. This is in copper. This is another very interesting inscription found in a place called Tiruvallare. This is hardly a few kilometers from Trichy. This is one of the 108 Vaishnava sthalas that people visit. This inscription is from Pandya period, 12th century. See, I told the palaces of most of the kings do not exist today, only the temples were remaining. The reason was, there was so much infighting. The Cholas will go and destroy Madurai and they will destroy everything, and after 1 or 2 centuries, the Pandyas will come and destroy Cholas, or Pallavas will go and destroy Vatapi, and Chalukya will go and destroy Kanchipuram. This was the way we were acting. Each was an independent country. But the practice was, when they go and destroy, they will destroy the palace first. Temples will not be touched. That at least, that's why we are seeing 1,000-year-old temples will not be touched. But this one, there is a 16-pillared mandapa in this Tiruvallare, which is not temple but somewhere outside. There is an inscription there that says the Maravarman Sundara Pandian did not destroy that, even though it is not part of temple, because this pillar was donated by king to a poet called Kadilur Rudran Ganyanar, who wrote the Sangam epic Patinapalai. And for writing that Patinapalai, the king, Chola king, had donated a 16-pillar mandapa to him. And they had so much respect for a poet, they did not destroy the temple and this mandapa, but rest were destroyed. And the inscription says that. You can see how much value they kept on a poet and what was the ethics and values of those times. Then we comes to one of the landmark inscriptions in the South Indian history, Uttarameru. Any idea what is that about? It's near Kanchipuram. Uttarameru inscription. No. Not war at all. It's a election system. Unbelievable election system of democracy. Let me read out from the inscription what it says. This was Chola period practice. It says they are introducing a new system of election for the administration, for the prosperity of our village, in order that wicked men may perish and the noble ones may prosper. 10th century inscription. Okay. The village was divided into 30 wards. And one representative was selected from each ward. And they formed committees. One for tank committee, which is managing the water, because in Chola period, water management was very important. Even in Bangalore, if you know, the 1,000 lakes and the Rajakalve system was done in Chola period. They were good in water management everywhere. They managed that. So for water management, one committee. There was one garden management committee for the town. And there was general accounting and supervision committee. Okay. And out of 13, there were distribution of 12 people. And all the eligible members to contest were nominated by other people. They cannot nominate themselves. That was the system. And what was the criteria? Because there is a huge inscription which is worth. I think even our Prime Minister quoted this while inaugurating the new parliament, saying that such a system existed in our country, democracy. Or else we talk of Roman democracy and other systems, we should know our democracy also. First criteria was purity in public life is of highest pedestal. The person's age should be between 35 and 70. Okay? And the person should be educated. And education is described as knowledge in dharma and scriptures. That was what was called education. Should own a property and live in that village. So you cannot go to another constituency for the election purpose. And you should be paying taxes regularly for that property. And you should have acquired that property by honest means. And the tenure of any elected member was only 1 year. Anyone who served on the committee cannot serve next year and he can only apply 1 year later. So it should be on rotation basis. And when they are in power and doing, they have to submit regular accounts to the entire town. If they fail to produce the accounts, that means financial misappropriations were there at that time, they will be immediately disqualified and a new committee has to be formed. Any embezzlement or default, anything happens, their entire family for 7 generations cannot participate in any of these elections. And how was the method done? It was called Kuda Volai in Tamil. Kuda means it's a pot. Volai is palm leaf. So those who are nominated by the city people, their names will be written in this palm leaf and put into the pot. And a child will be asked to select from that. That was election. It's not that individual person voted. But you look at the criteria and how they did. This is how the 30 people were elected. And any member found guilty or even having a doubt of suspicion, once the 30 people decide that they will be removed from the power. So, this is what is the democracy 1000 years back, how it was documented. And where did they document? Not in any other palace and all. It was documented in the temple, because temple is the place. Move to another thing, temple also served as a hospital. This is again near Kanchipuram, hardly 20 kilometers, a place called Tirumukkudal. And in a Shiva temple, it's on the way to Chengalpet. This served as a hospital. Let me read what the inscription says. What was the hospital? It is a hospital using herbal medicines following the Ayurvedic text of Charaka Samhita. That's what the inscription says. It had 15 functioning beds in the mandapam called Jananatha Mandapa. It was named after the king Veera Choleswara. The staff consisted of main one senior doctor, a surgeon, 2 male nurses, and who also had the responsibility to get the herbs and firewood and prepare the medications, and 2 female nurses for administering the medicines, cooking the food and feeding the patients. Other than that, the hospital was allocated a barber, a washerman, a potter and a gatekeeper, and somebody to take care of lighting even during the night times. This is what the inscription says. Again, centuries old practice. So inscriptions give some invaluable insights into the culture. Move on to music, one of my favorite topics, of course. This is in a place called Kurmiyan Malai, near Pudukkottai in Tamil Nadu. This is another landmark inscription done in 6th century. First time musical inscriptions have been written on stone. This is not a small one. The inscription is 13 feet by 14 feet on the wall. You can see the close-up of this also, how it looks. And this is 13 feet by 14 feet. Those times, ragas were not there. They were called grama. According to Natya Shastra, 7 gramas were there, 7 notes, what we call in Western system. And these notes for musical composition have been written. Very interesting point. First time in history of music, you see the Sarigama Balani notation being used in this. Also the notation to indicate the octave. Today we use a dot above the note or below the note. That is seen in this inscription. Also, this says that the King Mahendra Pallava created this for the benefit of students of music. So this also served, that means, as a music school. And you know our musical prowess through musical pillars. This is there in Hampi. Anything Vijayanagara and later period you will find. This is left one is from Tirunelveli in Nalaipa temple. The right one is from Hampi. You would have seen that each pillar produces a musical tone perfectly tuned. I mean, they have understood and created all those things. Again, music was considered not as entertainment. It it was integrated with our Sanatana Dharma. That's a very important concept. Why it is again associated with temple. And if you look through history, every temple had great musicians, poets, like the Annamaya or Annamacharya in Tirumala. His songs have been discovered in 32, he is supposed to have written 32,000 songs on Tirumala. His grandson says that, and they found copper plate inscriptions in Tirumala temple. Even now some are being found. We have something less than 1,200 or 300, not the 32,000. And how that music tradition, the Annamaya songs, how they have survived. Similarly, Tyagaraja and Mr.Swaminthan, the trinities of Carnatic music, visited Tirumala. Tyagaraja composed a famous song, Teradi Ekarada. He is asking the Lord to remove the Maya as a screen that is in front of the Lord. Teradi Ekarada Naloni. And Venkatesha Nanu in Madhimavati. And Dikshita has composed 3 songs on Tirumala. So these are all another part of our musical heritage that saints have sung. Musicians or Vagayakaras have sung on the temple. It's important to understand who has sung in the temple, what songs are there, and then we link to the temple Chitra a lot more. Interestingly, these traditions even now continue. It's not that this some centuries back it happened. I want to show 1 or 2 examples. If you take Udupi, Krishna is always with the flute, right? Even now, I want to show some example. This happens in Udupi in the night. If you go around 8:30, 9 o'clock, there is a Sangeeta Sevya that happens. This is Praveen Gokini. That's a tradition even now. So if you go to Udupi, it's not only darshan and having the lunch there. Go in the night time and watch this ritual in the night. Most of the temples in the night they have some type of Sangeeta Seva. It's important to understand the tradition, and these have been going on for centuries. And temples and festivals, and there are so many traditions associated with Nadaswara and music related to temple. Whenever there is a procession, there is a special type of composition called Mallari that is played. I will show some example here. So that's a traditional particular raga called Gambhira Nata, and different talas and complex rhythmic structures are played whenever the mutti is taken on the procession. Some other examples, there are music specific for each of the festivals. I'll just play, the Ratha festival are there. There's a Ter Mallari for that. And there is a Teppam which is actually taking the Lord in the water in the temple tank. There are certain music for that. So that is, again, there are hundreds of songs like that which are specific, even now planned and done for every incident or every festival, every event in a temple. And big temples have a lot more things. I want to show another great example from Srirangam temple. You see the picture there. Veena was played in ancient days like that, not sitting in a horizontal position. Veena was played like this. Even now the tradition continues because again music is part of our tradition, Sanatana Dharma. And during the Vaikunta Ekadashi in Srirangam and many other Vaishnava Sthalas, 10 days before and 10 days after, there is a great festival. The first one is before that is called Pagalpattu and Rakpattu. During the Pagalpattu festival, you see what goes on here for the Lord's procession. Again, this was part of what we call in our tradition Shodasopachara. There are 16 types of Upachara that we do the Lord, and Sangeeta is one of them. So it's not something different. So with that, we finish the music and move to the last time for dinner. So we just move on to temple and the culinary traditions. Again, we are excelling in that. It's at each temple. Same temple, let us talk of Srirangam. Do you know for Srirangam Ranganatha Swamy what is the first Naivedyam that is done in the morning? 6 o'clock? Any guess? Chakra Pongal, no. Any idea? No Pongal. First thing is done is roti with dal. There's a beautiful story behind that. There is a Sanadi called, you will see in Srirangam, Bibi Nachiyar or Tulka Nachiyar, it is called. A Muslim woman, there is a temple inside Srirangam, and that's the Bibi Nachiyar Sanadi. And this is in honor of her. The story is that she was a daughter of a Muslim king, and you know, in 12th, 13th century, Srirangam was invaded by the invaders from the north. But the queen, the daughter of the Muslim king, loved the Lord so much that she took the Vigraham to Delhi. They got it back later from there. Again, there is no exact historical proof, it's more of a legend, but since there is in the temple, we have to believe that. Other we know other history that Sri Ranganatha Vigraha was taken to Tirupati and brought back after 40-50 years. But this story tells that it went up to Delhi and came back. But she became a devotee of Ranganatha. So in her honor, every day, Ranganatha Swamy in the night wears a lungi. And then the morning first Naivedyam is a chapati with dal. You see how traditions are there. This is about Chidambaram. We saw the philosophy, but we look at this also. They have what is known as Jiraga Samba along with Gotsu, which is made of brinjal. And it is very important, if you don't get in the temple also, the outside hotels in Chidambaram will serve you the Chidambaram Gotsu. And there is an inscription in 12th century describing the Gotsu offering to the Lord. This is in Kanchipuram. You know what it is, right? Kanchipuram idli. It is again called Kudalai idli. It is made like this. And then cut and eat. That is a spicy idli. I'm going to do that. There is a volume here. Volume. Hello. Okay, thanks. So this is in Kanchipuram, Varadaraja Perumal temple. If you go, have the spicy idli there. And why all the examples? I take another example from here near to us. This is from Melkotai, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and this is very special dish called Puri Temple. Actually, it's something like a jangri. Maybe I have not tested it. Try for this. So every temple has got a special dish made. Last to finish with the dessert. This is from Alapura Palpayasam special dish. never miss it if you go to Kerala and Alapaya temple. So, again coming back to the point, if we consider temple as a religious place, why should we do all these things there? What of our culture? Food is our culture. Music is our culture. Paintings are our culture. So that's what we saw all along. The Sanatana Dharma is integrated way of life. Temple is just not a religious place, but a place where all our cultures thrive. And that's what I wanted to explain. I hope I gave you a small glimpse and overview of our culture. And hope you enjoyed it. And thanks once again to Chitra Ramaswamy Foundation for giving me the opportunity. And thank you all for patiently listening. Thank you so much. I hope next time when you visit a big temple, go with preparation and spend more time. Just don't go and rush and come back. That's all. That will be the real benefit of this lecture. Thank you very much.
That was a lovely presentation by Sri Krishnan. I think the overwhelming response from the sky, they are the pure class today. All this while it was quiet, the sky truly applaud your efforts, and that was such an enriching experience for all of us. Please still look forward to periodical
Now you can take the mic. Now you can take the mic. Thank you. Thank you.